Welcome back, everybody, to the Autism Exchange podcast. Again, we want to communicate and collaborate. We want to host real talk that is really relatable. And we want to do that through conversation, not through preaching to you. We're not telling you how to help yourself and dig out of the hole. We're simply going to foster communication here that has, if you've listened to previous episodes, and will continue to bring some really, really cool stuff to light. So we thank you for joining us again on the Autism Exchange podcast. Janice Krimpa, what's new?
I was all set for you to say, "How are you?" or "How in the world are you?"
I
You
did
keep
that last time.
changing it. I can't get my answers straight. Um, I'm good. How are you doing?
Finer than a frog hair split 3 ways.
Excellent. You s Yeah, I gotta start keeping a list of these because I don't have those to just roll off the tip of my tongue, and I like them too much, and I gotta learn some.
I was raised that way, and if I couldn't communicate that way, then I would have no idea what anybody was talking about ever, so that's just the way it goes. Yeah, things are cool here too. I you know, we've made it clear that you and I, when we did this thing, the point was not for notoriety. We don't want this to be the Michael and Janice show. That said, you can't grow something if you don't measure it, right? So we've kept a pretty close finger on the pulse of listenership, if that's a real thing, and sort of the number of subscribers, and just to make sure that what we're providing is something that is what listeners want to hear. Um,
Yeah,
and I gotta give you an update that this is just a resounding thumbs up, and that's not to Michael and Janice. That is quite literally to these concepts and these conversations that just naturally happen. So, super
yeah.
fired up about that. But
I'm
first,
super great, great. But could I just say one quick thing?
yeah,
Is that the feedback that I get from people, is so it's very positive, and I'm thrilled that it's so positive that they're I don't know how okay, I'm gonna give you some cool language, ready? They're getting what we're laying down.
oh yeah,
Boom! Mic drop. That's it. That's all I got for you.
that's better than stepping on
Um,
what we're putting down.
right? Yeah, that's a whole yeah, we're gonna let that go. Um,
Ah,
but it's been really great that people are, really really liking the idea of my home, my country, conversations about grace, conversations about just sort of the humanness that sort of exists around that all of us around each other and sort of like talking about that, like just talking about it in an easy, casual way that's not a to-do list or, you must. And so I'm super excited about that. And then that made me think of something else today. Can I share it with you?
let's go.
Okay. So you know how everybody says, "Oh, there are 2 types of people in the world," and they'll say, like, cheese pizza, pepperoni pizza, or whatever, and, like, there's baseball people and basketball people. So I was having you know how you go on, like a chat for, like, assistance online, and you can, like, chat with an assistant, and,
Yeah.
you always use live chat. And, so we went through the whole thing and did it, and then, I don't know this person, I have no idea where they are, and we've been chatting, and I've been saying thank you, and then at the end, I'm like, "Bye, have a great week. Thank you so much for your help. This was really great. I really like, I'm doing all these affirmations and telling him to have a great week." And
To a
and I
robot.
was thinking to myself, yeah, well, there's a good chance it was. I mean, AI is pretty sophisticated, so there are a lot of robots that are well wished by me um, but I just sort of like the fact that it took even a couple of minutes extra to just put some positive out there.
Yeah.
To just like, "Hey, have a great week. Thank you," because you never know what they're like. They could be getting all kinds of things on the other end of a customer service line, goodness knows what, and people calling in with all kinds of concerns and questions or whatnot. And so it just was sort of that moment of like, here's an opportunity. And so, yeah, so I wanted to share that with you.
No, I'm glad you did, and I think, the concept of grace, just planting that out there, throwing it out there into the world, that's a great representation of doing that. Just taking an opportunity when somebody would otherwise not I had to go to the bank today and actually had to go in the bank, and who likes to do that? Because it's stiff, it feels
Right.
like a funeral home to me, and it smells funny, um,
That
and their dum-dum suckers are outdated, but I
I was just gonna say, do they have the lollies? But okay, never
they
wow,
do,
that's so
but they're
funny about our connection back.
to the bank, yeah. But anyway, this lady was super sweet and nice, and she was like, "Alright, glad I could help you. See you later." And I just looked at her, I'm like, "I hope you have a wonderful day." And she's like, "Thank you so much." But that's not, that's not bragging on you, that's not bragging on me, that's just saying like, "Look, it's
No,
really simple to just, like, have grace and be nice to people. It's really not a big deal."
yeah,
Like, it's cool.
it I think we've just been talking about it so much that
Mhm.
now I'm like, I have more awareness of what I'm doing, and that's just so cool to see how it opportunities present to practice. I
Yep.
guess that's what I was saying, is that opportunities present to practice. And since we've been talking about it so much, it's more in the front of my mind. So I have a chance to sort of seize those opportunities.
Yeah.
So anyway, so thank you for that. I just want to say thank you because I don't know where I would be in that recognition of opportunities if it wasn't for you and the Autism podcast. So thank you so much.
Well, don't thank me. You can thank the Autism Exchange podcast. And truthfully, that comes from the people that join us, not from you and I. We never have a motive or a plan coming in. Really, the lack of a plan is our plan, and it's worked out great. So here, I want to update you on some fun life stuff unrelated to professionalism. Um, one of which is that for the last 4 days, I have been at the World Colt Starting Championship. Have you ever heard of a
Um,
cult starting
I
championship?
no.
Well, it's awesome. I'll start with that. Um,
Okay.
these group of people, let's say this group of people takes colts that are baby horses that are between 2 and 3 years old, and they're on this place happened to be called Pitchfork Cattle and Land Company or something. So they had all these horses by the dozens that were just running around, hadn't been handled by people other than like vaccination. So they'd not been trained at all. And so in like a 2-day event, which really turns out to be like 3.5 hours total, they went from this horse has never been messed with to like riding them through an obstacle course. Like, for in
Oh my
its entirety.
gosh.
Yeah, and it's a world champ like, the prize was, like, $75,000 or something. Like, it was insane.
Wow.
And so, we went, a member of our horse association and I went because we could use this for training our Kentucky natural gaited horses, but also think about hippotherapy training for those horses, right? I mean, it's really
Oh, for
cool stuff,
sure.
and they had the opening ceremonies with, like, medieval theme, like chariots and people riding on the horses' backs with their feet or
Wow.
whatever kinda crazy stuff, happened, but it was, um it was so neat. Okay, this has a point, promise. So, at this place, I realized and to get it, it's like the world championship, but I didn't really expect for Lexington, Kentucky to have people coming from all over the world for this event. There's thousands of people, um
Wow.
and there were a lot of people from Australia. Okay. This is relevant, I promise. So I'm walking around, there's all these booths. They're like, "Can I waterproof your boots for you? Try out our this, try out our that." I'm like, "Oh, this is neat." So I met this lady from Australia and just, she was trying to sell me something. So she was extra chatty, but I just was inquisitive. So I, wanted to know why she came to America, yada, yada, yada. So part of me asking her about life in Australia was, well, I've never been, but also, are you like scared to death to walk outside because of snakes and spiders that'll kill you just by looking at you? Because you hear that about Australia, right? It's terrifying. She's like, well, you have coyotes where you live. Every time you walk out the door, do you see a coyote? I'm like, "No." She said, "Okay, well, we don't see deadly snakes and spiders everywhere we turn either. You just see that on the movies." So I thought that was really interesting. And then
Cool.
this morning rolls around, and I get a nice little, NPR email into my, email account that has this headline: "Live possum snuggles stuffed toys at Australian airport store." And if I could go back to Natalie from Australia/Kentucky at the sales thing at the World National Cult whatever, I would say, "See, told you so," because you can't go into a Delta Airlines airport store to buy peanuts without running into a wild possum. Mind you, it also looks like a chinchilla. It doesn't even look at the it doesn't even look like a possum. That's a chinchilla.
Oh my gosh. I can yes. Oh my god, I
So
see that. Yeah.
I don't know if all Aussies would say the same thing, that, like, it's safe out there, you just have to, every now and then watch out, or if you really can't go to the airport. Um, and on the note of
I don't
animals, I have another little something that's a little bit sad. Nope, you're not here yet, we didn't introduce you. Do you people have pets?
I do.
You have a dog.
Careful, you sneak in for a second with a yes and no, and then
Yes, I do, in fact, have pets.
okay.
Okay.
Alright, you have to invisible now you're invisible again. Okay. Alright, go ahead.
We'll magic. This is like a magic show too. See, yo, listeners, you didn't know we could do all this stuff. We got it down. Okay. This is another NPR headline. A zoo in Denmark asked their patrons to donate their pets, not as attractions, but for food. You heard what I said. Yeah?
This is me being speechless, which happens never. Um, okay.
That's
I'm
you being serious? Okay. No, okay, listen. So, quote, "This is a joke, right?" One in range commenter wrote, "No one would bring his healthy pet to a zoo so they can kill it and feed it to animals." Here's another quote, "In Denmark, this practice is common. The something something zoo says dogs and cats are excluded from the program, but donatable animals are limited to chickens, rabbits, guinea pigs, and horses."
Oh, okay, that's where it's
Struck
hitting
a
hard.
nerve with me on that last one because
Oh,
third ta-da moment of the day is that yesterday we
yeah.
had a new baby foal born on our farm. So Dolly
Yay!
the horse gave birth. We kind of maybe had our time messed up a little bit because we thought she was due in like 3 weeks. But in the
Mhm.
morning, I was in Lexington at the horse competition, and my wife saw her in the morning looking like a very pregnant horse. And then, like an hour and a half later, my mother came by to see her, my boys, and was like, "There's a baby horse standing in the field." And we're like, "What?" So we have a little boy. Here's his picture, if you can kinda see. You guys listening can't
Oh,
see, but, this is Kirsten's horse. Kirsten wanted her own, and so this is little man. Yeah, so he's the newest Kentucky natural gaited horse, and I can assure you that he will most certainly not be being donated to the zoo for somebody to eat him because that's so sick and twisted. Um,
no, no,
isn't that
that's,
messed up? I just think that's crazy.
yeah, I'm wondering, like, is there, like, an over chicken population in Denmark? Because, like,
Yeah, but they have too
there's,
many
like
guinea pigs?
I know, like, I'm not under won't know that I know about that, and, is I don't know. But is it do they have to be this is a weird question, but do they have to be healthy? Are these animals that would otherwise be
Well,
euthanized
see,
or
that's my thought. Like, if there's an animal that it's time for them to be euthanized, isn't there technically something wrong with it? Unless it's like old age, right? But if you're gonna
right,
euthanize a dog because it has A, B, or I guess you can't say dog, horse because it has A, B, C, or D, then it's not safe for other animals to eat. Or maybe a tiger can eat tetanus. I don't know.
right.
I don't know how tigers work, but
So,
anyway,
maybe this is an organ donor situation that,
I
there's, like, a
seriously doubt.
thing, so, like but rather than an organ, it's like organism, and there's a variable that we're gonna need to read a few paragraphs down because
So
there's
you
gotta
mean
be
to
some
tell me that these people in Denmark are gonna look at their guinea pig and go, "So, if you would just simply sign the back of your driver's license, then you can become an organism donor and you can be eaten by a tiger." Okay, sounds
I
good.
think no, 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 I think it's more like parents have a contract with their kids and say, "You don't
What?
clean out the cage. That guinea pig is doing
Okay, so when you
Oh
made
my
that
god, I just said that.
when you
We're gonna edit
started
that out.
no, we're not, we're leaving it.
We're totally
When you
editing.
first started saying that, I'm like, "Where are you going with this parent saying to their children thing?" Like, mama guinea pig says to baby guinea pig, like, "You better straighten up or I'll feed you to a tiger." No, thanks. No.
No, mine was actually more sinister, and any hope you had of getting Caroline on the podcast is now gone.
No, well, it happened and it's on the record, and we will not edit that out because it's wonderful and I think it's funny. Um, all right, so there's the goofing for the day. This is twice in a row, and I
Yep.
didn't really do it on purpose, but this is twice in a row where there were like news headlines that caught my attention. Um, promise that's not intentional, so I'm unlikely to come with more news headlines. But when something just slapped me in the face that hard, I was like, "What in the world? I gotta ask Janice about that." And now
No,
I
you
know
gotta
that
bring it.
you're, n-
I like where you're getting your news. If that's your news, I wanna subscribe, and now I'm gonna count on you for that news.
and now
So
we know that you're a cold-blooded guinea pig slayer. So
no, no, no. I am looking to be a benevolent euthanizer is really what it
terrible time for me to take a sip of water. That was almost bad news.
If I could have timed that, I would have, but it just kinda happened that
Well,
way.
yeah, no kidding. All right, so Janice, I want you to introduce today's guest. But before you do, I will say that I had the pleasure of meeting her. I guess was this last week when we met, and we had just kind of a lengthy phone call, and just you know how we are, very unstructured. You know, our plan is no plan. Um, but I just really enjoyed several things that this person said, and just her whole demeanor. And what I also really love about it is that I can say, Janice, you are a very brave person by putting two people that know you and are unfiltered when it comes to sarcasm and just flat out throwing darts at you. You're a brave woman for showing up here.
Thanks for leading with that, Michael. And we're about to, I'll tell you what, let's test that bravery in about 45 minutes and see how this all pans out.
Then we'll know. Okay. No, seriously though,
And
I really did learn so much just in a very, relatively brief conversation, and I'm tickled to death that she's with us. I know you are too. So please let me hush and you introduce her.
she is really extraordinary. And Michael, I have to say that I think I'm going back to many years ago, thinking that I'm so glad that I became professional colleagues with this person just so that fast forward 25, 30 years, I could be having her on this podcast right now. Like, that's how much I just adore and respect her as a clinician and as a friend. And just, I think she's amazing. And I'll tell you why in a few minutes, but her name is Catherine Weiner, and she is a special education teacher and also a BCBA. And she is a teacher in the Boston suburbs. And I'm going to have her talk a little bit about her sort of evolution from working as a teacher and BCBA combined with teacher and sort of how that sort of evolved. Because what she does, I have to say, in my entire clinical career and meeting people in all different areas of the country, I've never heard of anybody who does what she does. And I think that in so many ways it's obvious common sense, but I think it's so complicated for people to think about that they don't are not doing it, or they don't give credit where they anyway. I'm just so glad that she's here. I'm gonna let her speak for herself. Yeah, I'm super excited. Everybody, please welcome Catherine Weiner.
Thank you.
Woohoo! You don't have
Catherine.
to do your own cheers. We'll do your cheers. Yay,
Thank
Catherine!
you, thank you,
Aw.
thank you, thank you for being here. Seriously, I'm super pumped that when Janice said to me, "Hey, I have somebody I think you need to meet. I think she would be great." I knew right away that, okay, this is legit. This is gonna be good. But then when I met you, I'm like, "Oh, this was a lot better than what I thought it was." And I thought it was really good. So, thanks so much, for being here. Um, Janice, I'm gonna speak for both of us right here and just say, Catherine, who are you?
Mm.
So I knew you were gonna ask me that question. And even though I tried to think about it, I really didn't care much. So, I mean, I'm a mom first. I am a mom of 4 boys. I don't know what I wasn't thinking. I mean, but here I am. And I have 4 amazing kids. Their, ages are 15, 14, 8, and not even 1. So we just throw caution to the wind around here.
You are a
Um,
busy lady.
you know, yeah, I like to keep things new and fresh and yeah, so I mean that's definitely first and foremost. I I'm a teacher, I'm a gardener, or at least I think I am. Um, I'm super excited to like start to plant the seeds and get the things ready.
What do you garden?
And so like during COVID, I really didn't have much to do. So I just decided I was going to be a gardener. So I just bought a random amount of seeds and kind of like went all in. And so since then I've perfected the process a little bit, but it's vegetables, fruits, like that
Okay.
kind of thing.
So more
Um,
more food than flower bed material? I don't know. What
yeah,
do you
I
call
don't
those? Flowers?
yeah, I don't flowers don't do much for me. Um, and I have to feed 4 boys, so,
Yeah, grow
all
your
good.
food. If you figure
Mhm.
out how to garden a money tree, please don't forget me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
and I introduced you to Michael, so don't forget me there. Yeah.
mhm.
Sorry to
I
interrupt you, but
will
go
say
ahead.
not. Definitely circle back on the money tree.
Well, like, I
So
promise
yeah,
if I
so
ever grow one, then I'll hook you up too because, you know,
oh, well then, okay. All right. Feeling is mutual. Absolutely. We'll
got it.
we'll hook you back up with that.
Okay, so mom, teacher, gardener, what else?
I think as you alluded, I am super sarcastic. I do try to have a sense of humor about all of the things, including work. I'm really happy to be here because I think I love that you and I could maybe, throw some things at Janice today
Just
because
tomatoes.
I that, and you enjoy that. So, we have that in common.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I would like circle around to the pet thing real quick.
Uh-huh.
I have 2 dogs. They are ginormic. They're half German Shepherd, half Black Lab, and occasionally there is one that I may, consider sending to such a zoo at various times.
Okay.
So,
Do you want me to
there
send you
may
the
be a
article?
place. There may be a place. And I love him very, very much, and I wouldn't actually do it, but he is 10 years old and he still acts like a puppy. Um,
Mhm. Well,
and
Mhm.
I'll
then I
tell
have
you
a
what.
cat who is a ridiculous cat that has curly fur and is basically a poodle version of a cat.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
I've
mhm.
never seen a curly-headed cat.
Me
Oh my gosh,
neither.
she is so cute. So
Yeah.
very cute. She's tiny. She's a Devon Rex. I
Devin.
I didn't know there were types of cats, to be perfectly honest, before I got her. Um, and it was just from, like, a rescue, and she happened
Yeah.
to be rescued from a breeder that wasn't treating them very well, but, um, yeah, she's like her own little breed of cat. So,
Well, good.
You're gonna have to send me a picture of that, Catherine.
oh,
I really don't know that I've ever seen a curly haired cat, and I think it's
mhm,
just my own ignorance. I always thought cats were pretty much like, um, I don't know
just a
the
cat.
cat version of this, like mutt, like our dog is a mutt. It's like all different. I don't mean that in any disrespect to any cat listeners. I just don't know that I've really seen a lot of thoroughbred cats. Is that a
Y
thing? A
y
thoroughbred?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
thoroughbred.
I mean, there's, like, the naked cats, the ones without hair.
Oh, right, right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're desperate to have another mate, I guess. Okay, never mind.
Maybe my children can have fur. That would be a nice. Where do we go in these conversations? It's just so wild.
I don't know. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. Sorry about that.
Yep.
Okay, mom, teacher, gardener, pet
Mhm,
owner and lover for the most part, except for the one who may
mhm,
or may not be sent to the zoo to feed the tigers. Um,
mhm.
I want to jump right in because you've already said something that I love, and that was you said you're a sarcastic person, which I love sarcasm, and it's funny to me when people don't get it. And so that it's not funny because they think I'm a mean person, but then, I think it gives me it whatever. So you made the
Yeah.
comment though, you like to take your sarcasm to work, and I think that's gold because there are many, many people, and I have been one of them, and thankfully I'm working on changing this, but there are many people, whatever industry they work in, they feel like it has to be like buttoned up, head to toe professionalism, hoorah, all the time. It's like, I don't know. And I really love the concept of let's be really good at what we do and let's have the most fun doing it.
Yeah.
Yes. I couldn't go to work if it was serious like that all the time. Like, I legitimately just bought myself a chicken suit to go to work in for April Fool's Day. And then I bought a colleague a banana suit. So if you don't know the Chicken Banana song, now would be the time, like, to look
Oh, I
that up.
know. Now now,
Mhm,
k if you
mhm,
need additional footwear for this chicken, costume,
mhm,
Janice has some really nice, bunny slippers that
mhm.
I
I
think
do.
she would let you
I
borrow, but you can't keep them long, you have to give them back, and as I recall, you have to be a size 7. So if that works out for you, you could
yeah.
borrow. That's great.
Yes, yes, Janice, actually, if you could mail those to me, that would be fantastic. Yep.
I'll send
Mhm.
you a picture before I take the postage, like spend the postage. So you send me a picture of the cat, and I'll send you a picture of the bunny slippers, and we'll see if maybe we could do a little swap here if we need to.
Fair enough.
Can I just say
Um,
one quick thing, Catherine? Is that I remember when you and I were working together a long time ago. I think one of the reasons why you and I got along so well professionally is because we really enjoyed each other. funny and had were able to have fun, and that because we were able to have fun in our work, it was easy to ask each other questions because we didn't have to worry about looking like we didn't know something or weren't certain or something. So it sort of allowed us to just brainstorm, and be a lot have a lot easier conversations because we didn't I mean, we took our work seriously and we took our students very seriously, but I think we're just allowed ourselves to have fun so that we could be open to brainstorming and asking questions and sort of like, saying yes and no and maybe sometimes. So anyway.
Yeah. No, and I think that is, like, the crux of any job, like, you have to want to go there, right? And you have to want to
Mhm.
be there, and you have to have fun while you're there.
Yeah.
And so it's not just having fun with the kids and the kids having fun, but it's also, like, having the staff look at each other as colleagues and be able to have fun and be able to enjoy each other. I mean, you don't all have to be friends, but you can have fun and enjoy each other. So, yeah, so we do a lot of fun things. Like our last PD, I sat everybody down and I was like, "Hey guys, we're gonna play games. That is gonna be our PD." And we played board games for 2.5 hours and we had a blast. And I think we probably got more out of that PD than any other PD that anybody could have offered us.
Isn't
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
truth? We've had
Mhm.
in our clinic before, we've done similar things where we have like a lunch hour and maybe it's not called a meeting, right? But instead of everybody dispersing for lunch, we all just kind of gather around and play whatever card games.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess it can be cliche when you use it to like force camaraderie, but when you do it authentically, um,
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, and it's those professional development days, I think sometimes I have too lofty of an agenda, and it just saps the fun right out of it, and what you're right, what you can accomplish by, choosing not to do something so structured, you achieve far more, so,
Mhm.
um, that's cool. I love that you're in charge of directing those because I think you're exactly the right person to be in charge of those too.
Um, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm in charge of that.
Mm.
I might say that I took some liberty on that particular.
Which is good, and I'm sure your colleagues are thankful that you do. Um, Ca
Yeah.
Catherine, when we talked on the phone last week, there were 4 or 5 different things that just came out of your mouth naturally, not a as we do, just not an interview, it's not a let me pull stuff out of you and make a plan, but I wrote down these things just as we were talking, and I wanna at least throw 1 or 2 of them out there and let you and Janice kinda dichotomize it however you want, but, the first one I'm gonna put a bit of a I don't disclaimer's not the word, bit of an explanation on because I don't want it to be delivered, in the wrong way. First, I will say this is not at all an indication that anybody that any of us have worked with in the past somehow got a lesser version of our effort or, attention or of our hearts. Rather, where we were before with advancements in understanding and in knowledge, most importantly, these young people that we used to work with have then grown up and have been able to voice their experiences, which any person in any professional field, if you don't listen to that feedback, then you need to quit, right? So, for all of those reasons, I think it's fair that all of us could say this, but the statement was, thank God I'm not the person I used to be, or the clinician I used to be, or the teacher I used to be, or the therapist I used to be. And in saying that, again, I just wanna make sure I'm clear. This is not to indicate that anyone we've worked with in the past has gotten anything less than what our best was or what the best was at that time. Um, but in general, I really like that statement because what it indicates to me is someone who is unafraid to say, I'm constantly trying to grow, I'm constantly trying to learn, and I'm constantly trying to do that without propping myself up on my own laurels, rather to
Right.
say, how can I be better for these people that I work with?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I said that, I truly meant it. I mean, I am grateful that I am not the same person I was when Janice and I first met each other 25-ish years ago. Um, and, the more I think about it, like, the more that I truly believe that at the time I was trying my absolute best given what I was taught, given what was important, at the time in the literature in special education in behavior analysis. Um, but to look back on that version of myself, that's not the version of myself that I present today or that I'm comfortable with today. And I think I know that you all talk about grace, but I think for me it's important to look back and try to give myself grace on that and just say that, yeah, that was me then, and I did try my best with what I had then. But that's not who I am now, and it's not what I would do now. And if people can't do that, if they can't look back and say like, "Wait, like that didn't sit right. That didn't feel right. What could I have done better? What did I miss?" Then what are we doing? I
Amen.
mean, yeah, I don't. It's just who I am, and if I wasn't doing that, or if I wasn't looking back, I would be kind of over this career, and
Mhm.
then it'd be time for something else.
And you would be the same version of you that you were back then, and I think that's probably why if any of us made that if we on purpose or otherwise, if we did not look back and try to learn from what we can learn, not just learn from our mistakes, again, because this is not to indicate that anything in the past was bad, right? It's just that we're constantly looking back and saying, "Okay, here's where I was, here's what I learned, what could I improve? How do I sharpen this so that I can be better as I grow?" And that is, unfortunately, I think it's a rarity in many professions sometimes, because there's this concept that you get your degree and now you're doing whatever you went to school to do, or you've mastered this skill, so that's your work, and then you know everything there is to know. And I really don't like that. Thankfully, we're all collaborative in the idea that it's not at all the case. One thing just to throw myself on the sword is that I used to do that was really bad, frankly, and that is when you meet someone who doesn't have words, for any reason, autism or otherwise, you meet them for the
Mhm.
first time and you're talking to their family and you address the parent, you address the adult, the caregiver, and you look them in the eye. And that was such a hard habit for me to get out of, and I think that's a perfect example. Obviously, my intentions were good, right? I went dedicated my career, to my life to trying to help these families achieve what I think is possible for them or what they want to accomplish, whatever. And so that took 5 years probably to get over that, and I look back on it now and I'm like, "Man, you're such an idiot." Like, who walks into a room and doesn't speak to the kid that's there to meet you for the first time? Like, what a moron. But that's an example. I look back and say, "Wow, that was stupid." So I make it a point now, I may not even talk to the parent for the first 2 minutes because 'cause I'm getting in that kid's face whether they like it or not.
Mhm.
Which is
Right.
I bring up because I think it's a beautiful segue into the most profound thing maybe I've heard anybody ever say when it comes to representing and advocating for children with developmental disabilities, particularly in the school system. Talk about your self-advocacy stuff and how your IEP meetings look. This is where I'm gonna shut up and listen for quite a while.
This is extraordinary, everybody. Yay, Catherine, take it away.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think looking back at myself as a clinician in the past, in a very similar manner, I didn't necessarily include the kids in what it is that they wanted to be learning or what their IEP was, or even teaching them what is an IEP or why are we meeting, about you. And I think over the course of my career, I've changed different um, different levels. So different levels of school. So all the way from elementary school to post grad. I did 10 years at a high school, and while I was there, I started to really learn and think about, okay, these kids, some of them are only going to be here for 4 years. Some of them are going to be here for a little bit longer. Some of them we don't know. We're not sure if they're going to be diploma bound or not diploma bound. But most of them were coming to their IEP meetings at age, 14 or 15, and they didn't know what an IEP was. They'd never been to a meeting. It was painful for them because it was like, here's this room of all these adults that you see every day, but you're also in that awkward adolescent stage where, you kind of feel like everything's about you. So this actually is really about you. And by the way, you're supposed to talk in front of them. And it was just mean in a lot of ways, to start it then. And so I don't know, I just started thinking, what do I want for my oldest son? What do I want for my students, to have and to do in these meetings? And so my oldest son is 15. He has autism. And at the time he was maybe in like third or fourth grade. And it just didn't make sense to me to wait until he was 14 or 15 to then throw him into a room with all these people and expect him to just be fine talking about his goals. So I started kind of practicing just with him then. Before his meetings, I would tell him, this is your IEP's coming up. Let's go through. And him and I would make like a slideshow. And I would scribe for him and he would, tell me some of the things that he wanted to do or some of the things that were hard for him that year. He would start to like say what he might need help in the future. And I started bringing him to the IEP meetings. And, at first he was fourth grade. So he would just sit, for the very beginning of the meeting and we'd present his slideshow. And then everyone would be like, oh my God, you did a great job. And then the adults would talk. But then, by the time he was in eighth grade, he knew what an IEP was. He knew what the meeting was. He knew the structure of it and why we were having it. And he sat through his whole 3-year reeval and all the testing. And something that you said, Michael, made me think of that. A lot of times the adults in the room are super uncomfortable having the kid there
Mhm.
and have to shift and talk about like the child as not the kid, but like now talk to the child and involve the child.
Yep.
And for me watching that awkward interaction that staff had, even though like they're very familiar with the kid, obviously they have great relationships, they have good rapport, but having them just kind of trip on their words and not be able to just say, hey, this is something we want you to work on for next year, or here's what you got this year, here's my concerns for you coming up, or you did this testing with me, here's how you scored. Like, yep, like this is kids meeting. This is not any of the grown-ups meeting at all. This is about the kid. And I think it's really important for that kiddo to be there. And so recently I started working at an elementary school and it didn't change my opinion on this. And so now my kids are, first grade, second grade, up through fifth. And my students' profiles are vastly different. Those students have neurological kinds of things happening. Some of the students are AAC users, but they're still kids. They're still my students. They're still the one whose meeting it belongs to. And to me, that very much means that they should be involved and start to be involved, even if they're in first grade or for any child, period. I think it's important to start to frame the meeting with, hey, this is who we're talking about. This is this child's meeting. Let's bring the child in and hear from the kid. And
I don't
so my kids,
know. I'm
sorry.
sorry. No, I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't work in a school system, okay? But I've met a lot of kids, obviously, that go to school and by the thousands and thousands. And I don't know that I've ever heard that proposed or explained in the way you just did. Because an IE meeting, and I have a 6-year-old with autism, and I've been to his IEP meetings. And this is not a knock on the school whatsoever, because the school that he is in right now are wonderful people. And they have done wonderful things for him. But still, I just put myself in my son's shoes. What's it feel like to walk in you know what? He d some the kids don't even go to these meetings sometimes, right? Like, it's just the parents and the teachers. Um, and I just if you were to walk in the room and, like, listen to because he might not be talking expressively, but he's listening, he understands, he feels, he hears. And so I just am so I don't know. excited for, I mean, like, even, like, emotional for the number of kids that you have positively impacted simply by treating them with respect that we
Mhm.
give to other adults, that we give to typically developing children. Why are we doing anything less than that for these other kids? That's just messed up.
I That's what I think. I think that, and I'm not saying that it's appropriate for every kid at every age to come to their meetings. I'm not. I don't want anyone to hear that, but what I do want you to hear is that there are a vast number of kids when they're very young that absolutely could sit with a teacher or a trusted adult and talk about what are the things that they like in school, what are the things that they don't like, what do they want to learn, what kind of supports, right? And you can
Mhm,
think about like what kind of classrooms, what kind of kids do you like to work with, any of those pieces that you can pull pictures, real pictures of them from throughout the year, and have them create a slideshow. I mean, we turn those slideshows into movies, and then we have most of the kids come to the beginning of the meeting, right? And they hit play on their movie and they say hi to everybody. And they're so proud and so happy. And it's not that awkward. Oh my God, I have to go to my meeting. It's like, oh, cool. Look at all these people. Like, they all are here for me and they're all going to listen to me and who I am. And sometimes the things that they want to do or be or learn, I had a kid want to learn how to go to a sleepover. Okay, cool. Like, I'm absolutely gonna talk about that, and what are the pieces of going to a sleepover? Well, you need to be a good friend, you need to be responsible, you need to make some choices at other people's houses. Like, those are all really important skills that go into being able to sleep over someone's house. Um, and then, for students that are AAC users, students that are just maybe not appropriate for emotional reasons or anxiety for them to go to their meetings, we still frame the meeting around, hold on, I sat down with this kiddo when it was a comfortable situation. And maybe we used pictures, maybe we used choice boards, maybe we used AAC devices, maybe we used whatever. And really, I said, what do you like? What do you not like? Tell me, show me, do it in front of me so that I can communicate on your behalf to your team because it's your meeting.
I don't know if it's maybe it is. First of all, I'm not a wildly emotional person, especially when it comes to just the soft things, you know? I have anger and stress down pat, but the rest of them may be a little foreign to me, but, you know, just thinking maybe it's because I'm a parent of a kid with autism, but I that just absolutely warms me up to the core. Um, and it motivates me to be better as a dad, as a husband, as a professional. I just want everybody in the world to hear what you're saying, and I don't care if they're teachers or not, but I just want everybody to, because you're an example of putting your money where your mouth is. You say that you're an advocate for these kids and that you're in education because you want to help and make a difference in their life. And that's one thing. And there's traditional educational approaches are totally fine. We're not being mean to anyone. It's not the point. But the point is, if we're talking about being able to look back at where we were and see where we want to go next and how we want to be sharper and better, look right here because that is it. I don't feel like I do this enough with my own children, you know? Like, it's just some I don't know. You've a and this is why I wanted to make sure we brought it up today, but, I actually even told my wife, I was like, "You wait until you hear Catherine because she has this
Mhm.
concept and it's gonna light you on fire. You're gonna love it." Um,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
Janice, you need to catch up on what's going through your head. I'm sorry.
yeah. Well, first of all, Catherine, I'm so glad that I did not even attempt to try to summarize what it is that you do because I could never do it. But a couple of things keep jumping to my mind, and one of them is that as educators for many many years, we say, oh, we want to have the least restrictive environment for a kid. We want to reach the maximum potential and best outcomes, and all these things, and like we have all these words around this, and a bunch of grown ups get together in a room and say all these things. But then they actually see the child in the room with them saying these things, and it makes me sort of like chuckle a little bit because for a bunch of grown-ups who for a living have to teach certain things, and then all of a sudden they are sitting in a room where the kid leads the meeting, and I'm wondering, they're probably a little nervous about what's gonna be said. And I was thinking, like, what it must be like for those grown-ups and how, it could be anxiety provoking for them, like, "Oh my gosh, so and so is gonna be at this meeting and they're gonna give us their input of what they thought about the year previous and the year coming." And good on them to be a little nervous that hopefully that inspires them to do an even better job next year so that they can slide into that meeting a little more comfortably, number 1. But also number 2, I think that it must be really fascinating and hopefully, satisfying on your part to see that, educators actually treat a child like a person instead of a goal or an IEP meeting or a data point or an assessment score. And, but a, a person, a kid who is, you're teaching them language, but like, who cares about colors and who cares about, geography? What do how are you doing? And you're giving the kids that voice. Like I said, I'm guessing that for some of the people that you work with and your colleagues, and no shade to your colleagues, but that might have been the first time that some of those people, like a principal or something, actually heard what these kids are thinking. And you allowed them to do that. You gave them the voice and the space to do that. And so, Michael, you and I have talked about this as, having the Autism Exchange be sort of a repository for questions. And Catherine, you beautifully just rattled off a bunch of questions. And I was like, I couldn't write them down fast enough. But what you were saying, what did you like? What did you not like? What do you do? What's important to you? What was your favorite part of school? Your favorite part of the day? Like all of these questions that help us get to know the student and have them, but have the student be able to say, no, 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 I like this. I don't like this. I want when they start speaking in I and not just, like, by the way, we had a meeting and this is what we're working on, and they don't even know what their goals are. You're giving them the agency to say, no, 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 I want this. And for the kids up and down, you know, the spectrum and ability levels, or it doesn't really matter. The fact that they are even maybe to say, I like these reinforcers. I like this. I like to learn in this room. I like to, that guy comes in with the striped shirt, not so crazy about him. Whatever it is. But like we talk about choices as if it was all textbook. And I think, there were so many it's been called so many things. There's like choice, and then it was self-determination, and then morphed into other things, and now it's agency. And really what it comes down, like, it's a choice in what you're doing, and I applaud. I can't applaud as enthusiastically as I would like to, but you're giving these kids a voice by asking them questions, and then over time, you're not like, "Thursday morning, we gotta come up with your choices, we gotta have your IEP meeting." You're doing it over time in a safe, comfortable way that allows them to be who they are, and yes, trust the people that are there to help them. And so that they come away from 18 years of education feeling like they had some relationships with people who cared about them and listened to them and advocated for them, so that that becomes a role model for themselves and say, "Oh, wait a second. I know how to do an IEP thing. Maybe I know how to do this job interview. Maybe I know how to sort of meet somebody and go to a Pokemon tournament or something. I now know how to sit in a room with people." Anyway, I'll stop talking and let you go, but I'm just so happy you're talking about, for the adults too, having the courage to listen and be able to receive, the openness and the curiosity to be able to receive. So anyway, okay. Thank you for that. Let me talk. 'Cause I don't want to miss a moment of what you're going to say.
No, so I mean, hearing what you just said about the staff, I think I always like assume good intentions, right? I assume that the staff is maybe uncomfortable, not because they think they did something bad or
Oh,
that the kid is going to report something. I think it's just, I mean, for the most part, staff don't want to hurt the student's feelings or to say something that might cause some sort of anxiety or n- some sort of like not great feeling in the student. And like even just bringing it to an elementary school, this year, I did have to do some work with some of the staff just around like, okay, this is what I'm used to. Maybe it's not what you're used to. Like, I'd like to have conversations about how we can do this so that everybody's comfortable.
Mhm.
And I'm blessed, very, very blessed right now to work with amazing colleagues who were super, super self-respective, reflective, and were able to say, "Oh my gosh, like, yeah, why don't we do that?" Um, but I think that that's something that it's really important to just name and say like, "Okay, it might be uncomfortable." Like, it was super uncomfortable for me the first time that I was in a meeting with a student that was there. But the more you do it, the more you become visualized to it, and the more you're like, "Oh, yeah, like, that is absolutely exactly what should be happening, and why haven't we brought the kid in, and why haven't, we heard from them?" So
So if maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but of our listeners, there are quite a few educators, in that group of people, and I want to again say this is not to indicate that anybody has been doing or is doing anything wrong. I just want to pitch this as an opportunity to take this idea that unfortunately is relatively new, and run with it. Um, is there any bit of advice that you would want to throw out to someone who listens to this and says, "Man, what a great idea. Where do I start?"
yeah, I mean, I think my advice is start. Take sit sit your kiddo down and, and start and give yourself grace, right? Like, sit down with the kid, know that maybe it's not gonna go great the first time, or maybe you have to refine your questions or your visual choices or your platform. I mean, I can't even tell you how many versions of videos I have gone through and how narrating and taking out I don't even know. It's been a process all year. Every single IEP meeting all year, I've done something different. But you know, give yourself that grace and sit down and talk to the kiddo and see. And for me, it's been really interesting and surprising. Also, then going to the parents and saying, "Hey, your kiddo made this awesome, amazing video about their year and what they've done and what they want to do. Is it okay if they come to the first part of their meeting or to the last part of their meeting? Or can we show, the video or can we talk about the kid's vision during the meeting?" And the parents have been so super like happy and appreciative and just like, yes, yes, they absolutely should be at their meeting. Why haven't they been to their meeting before? Like, not that anyone did, anything wrong in the past, but I think that's been kind of fun for me to navigate this year, as well. Just hearing the parents say, "Oh yeah, absolutely."
Well,
I don't even know if that, but
I think it did. I mean, it did, and I guess what stands out to me that time is that parents are so happy and, like, excited about that idea, and that also tells me that it's rare. Like, they didn't know it was a thing. They didn't know they even could come, you know? Like, I didn't even know my kid could come to an IEP meeting, and that maybe you don't, and that but they can, and it's about them, so why wouldn't they? I don't know. I completely Janice, all the love to you. I completely hijacked because this whole conversation because I met
No.
Catherine and wished I don't know how long we talked, but I immediately was wishing that I had 10 times more hours just to spend asking questions about how you get to where you are, because it's certainly something that I, as a father, as a husband, and as a therapist and a business owner, like, I want to embody much more of what you have than what I have, in this world, and it's, motivating to me, and, I can speak on behalf of my child and likely billions of others in saying, "Man, if we could all just have a little dose of Catherine in us, that even on a micro scale, if we could just practice some parts of what you're embodying, it just man, what a difference that and I don't know if anybody has if anybody's never told you before that I promise what you're doing is making a world of difference, then let Janice and I be the first ones to say what you're doing is making a world of difference, not just in
Yeah.
the minds of education and learning minds, and then not just that, but in their hearts, like in their souls. I genuinely believe that being treated with respect and being talked to and being included in what's happening in your life. It might sound simple to you, but yeah, I promise you it's not. And so huge thank you for that. I
Uh, can
Yeah,
can
go, go,
oh,
go.
go ahead.
Nope.
I wanted to say, Catherine, that, Michael, I think we talked about at some point about another yard or another comment or
Yep.
going piggybacking on, like, anyway, I can't think of one right now, but that we've talked about that before. But, Catherine, I also wanna just say something else that you probably know this, but I feel like I wanna say it anyway, is that what you're doing for a child in a year, in a meeting, you are then setting the precedent for all of those people in the room, and for that parent to see their kids as somebody that's like that's, something that's not on paper, something that's not, quantifiable, but qualifiable, something that is, "This is who my kid is," and that you've taken the time to to find that and to bring that out and to share that with all those people. Um, Catherine, like, that's amazing, and I know that there are parents, certainly as other educators, but I think parents who will forever remember, the first time that someone really stood up for their kid. And so I wanna say on behalf of all those parents, thank you.
Oh, okay. Look at you getting emotional. Uh,
Listen, and you
Well,
got emotion out of me too. It's just about as far as I know how to let it go before my brain's like, "What are you feeling right now? What is this? Why do you feel so warm and fuzzy?"
faulty discharge from my eye.
No, seriously, can we I'm just gonna ask you guys on the spot, like, can we please do a part 2? It doesn't have to be right now. Catherine, if you're willing.
I would love to do a part 2. Yeah,
S s
yes, I
so
have other things I wanna add, but I just keep talking and I'm sorry.
No, and there
No,
are things I want you
that's
to
not
add. Yeah, for sure. Um, and there are lots of things I think Janice and I wanna ask with more detail than we have time for. One thing that so assuming that we're all good, that we will do a part 2, it might not be the next episode that comes out, so you may look for it a few weeks down the road, but, one thing we did not take, and I wanna give you a minute or 2, you know our love for My Home, My Country, and we we kind of got a little bit about you in the beginning, but do you understand, Catherine? Like, have you heard of our definition of my home, my country?
Oh, yes, mhm.
Okay. So tell us about your home and your country.
So I think well, I think 2 things. So as it applies to this particular topic, my home, my country for me means that my oldest son, Shane, absolutely can advocate for himself and is important in all ways. So if he's home and he's doing homework and he's got an issue, I'm not emailing the teacher for him. Like, you need to go and do that. That is your job. That is your role. You know you know your goals. Go forth and do that. Because in a few years, yeah, I don't know what you're going to be doing, but I'm not going to be writing to your boss.
Mhm.
So I think that's one thing in terms of how that applies to self advocacy in my house and what that looks like. Um, I think that the my home, my country on a different level, on a clinical level, I I just I've been on both sides, right? I've had EI come into my house. We've had different services for the kids when they were little, um, and I wish people had taken the time to stop and figure out what was important, or even just let me figure out what was important. Because especially like early on, I was a mom and I was figuring out how to parent a kiddo with autism and then a brother that was very, very, very close in age, um, and so I don't know, I wish that there was more conversations about what is important to you, and I don't know that I knew then. I don't. I think I was in survival mode, right? But even just someone maybe recognizing that would have been helpful, I think. And not that they weren't wonderful, like, they literally were wonderful humans, and I still talk to many of them. But then on the same right, the other side of that coin is there I wish I had done the same, right? Like, more. And I think that at some point, I definitely got better at stopping and figuring out, like, okay, like, this family doesn't have dinner all together. Why am I making them sit at the table together? I mean, in my house, I can't even tell like, I'm lucky if I can get a kid to sit at the table for dinner, and usually it's the baby. I've strapped him in a high chair. Like, you know, to just kind of, I don't know, to go back and to do things differently. I mean, obviously I can't, but to just stop and either help a family figure out what it is that they want, 'cause maybe they don't know, or just listen a little bit longer, a little bit harder, and watch a little bit more.
I mean, could you put a better sentence together to represent everything Janice and I want to be and, like, want to accomplish? Um, I I don't know, part 2 and maybe part 3, seriously, I'm not kidding at all. Um,
That's
I
that Catherine, wow.
I really don't
I mean,
think
Gonna come here for my ego boost, guys.
listen, you've earned it, man. I I don't know, like, I don't know if you understand how unique you are and, like, what all you're providing because you are outgoing and a good communicator and a confident person and a funny person. But again, I mean, this is the second time I've said this. If you've never heard it before, let Janice and I make it clear what a difference you're making. It absolutely moves me. And I didn't expect this today. I didn't expect to come in here and just be shaken to the core. But you know what? I'm loving it. And I'm really sad to be the have to, to have to be the one that says that we're quickly running out of time. But fear not, because we absolutely will come back with at least one more iteration of this if you're gracious enough to join us.
Of course, I would be happy to do so. This has been so much fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Janice, is
so
there
much.
anything you want to add before we unfortunately close up?
No, and better believe that I'm gonna try to get a date on the calendar as soon as possible because, I'm just it feels so good to talk to you about all of this so that other people can hear it too. So this is so much better than an echo. This is just you being able to say this in your own voice. So yay.
Yeah, and I think
Awesome.
I can't speak for you on this, Janice, but it makes me proud to be in the position I'm in with the Autism Exchange, right? Like it makes me so proud to be able to say, I know Janice, and Janice knows Catherine, and look what Catherine just said. I'm like, yes, I'm in her circle. Let's go. You know, and just feel like we did something right. Let's go. All right,
Well,
guys.
I think after today, you've taken me out of running. You are like first of separation to Catherine now. You don't even need me anymore. Like you are now, like you're
Oh,
right there.
we traded phone numbers. Don't you worry. You've got some serious
Oh, yeah.
April Fool's Day stuff coming up, by the way. Don't
Mhm.
Yeah,
you better
I
sleep with one
think
eye open on April Fool's Day. Guys,
Mhm.
thank you all so much for joining us. If
thank
you did
you.
not enjoy what Catherine just brought to the table, then there's something bad wrong. So my suggestion would be to listen to more episodes of the Autism Exchange podcast to figure out what in the world's going on with you. I'm kidding. We're so thankful for you guys joining us. Again, we just want to be clear. Our motivation is just to help share this conversation with more people so that we can organically all learn together. Don't forget, check us out. Look for us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and other platforms, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. For Janice Krempa, I am Michael Coldiron, and this has been the Autism Exchange podcast.
That's so cool. Subscribe. Thank you so much, Michael. Come on.
I don't know that I know how to be emotional like that.
Alan's amazing. Amazing. I told you. He's amazing. And people just like cruising off with both of this is what she's doing. I'm like, people don't do this. You don't understand.
No, it's so rare.
I know.
And I also learned that I need to learn how to be emotional and it be okay.
All right. Well, I know nothing about that. So that's not my area.